Hey.
Says out there, I'm a descendant of Roald Amundsen, discoverer of the South Pole. Wow. Very
Very
cool.
cool.
I bet you've got some stories to tell.
I bet. Yeah. All right. Well, and we are recording. I just started the recording for tonight's program. So
Joe,
we will be
it's a show, not a program.
tonight's presentation.
There you go.
We're recording. Don't correct me when we're recording.
Okay. Okay, I'm getting a confirmation that the link is working. They're able to get to that diagram.
Excellent. All right. All right. Here comes the chair, and here comes the presentation. Just a second. Let me get this down here. Now, I figured out a couple of things before we get started here. Okay, now, when I put just to let everybody know, when I put this presentation together, it was about a 50-minute or 55-minute, 58-minute, something like that video that ran if you just let it run end to end. But we didn't know if we had permission or not. So what I did with the video was to chop it into 27 second bits. Some of them are a little bit longer. Some of them are a little bit shorter, depending on what he was saying at the time, so that I could find a decent place to break. And then I've got some slides in there where we will either just let the slides show, or we will pause the video and make some comments as we go through. So the entire presentation is going to take a little bit more than an hour, but you're going to be amazed at the information that comes out in this. And so here goes.
My first slide is, what do you know? All of us have some knowledge of things. I'm going to share with you a little bit of the knowledge that I have. I happen to know this gentleman, Colonel Donald Ware. You may have heard of him.
Okay, and the first question we ask, what do we really know, and how advanced is our technology?
Yeah.
Was a former Air Force colonel. He was a test pilot. He's had experiences with the visitors. And after I had gotten a chance to meet William Tompkins, as a result of Major George Filer, introduced me to Bill Tompkins. And
okay, and you know, you heard him in there. He said visitors.
Yeah, that's the first mention he makes in the presentation of the visitors.
Yeah, and he's going to, and then Bill Tompkins, and we're going to learn a little bit more about Mr. Bill Tompkins. Here we go.
Dr. Michael Salla. And what he shared with me was the Rockwell Integrated Space Chart. I don't know if you folks have ever seen this before. I have to apologize to you that the rendition is not as clear as I'd like it to be, but I'll give you my email address, and if you'd like a copy of it, I'll be happy to email it to you so you could take a look at it. It's absolutely extraordinary. It's a layout of us getting involved in.
Okay, now that is the original of the space integrated space chart that we just showed to you. Mm-hmm. Now, if you look at that one up close, it's not a very good rendition that he has up there on the screen. It is different than the one that we've sent to you. This one has been revised. Let's see, what is the revision date on this one? Version 1.1, February 1989. Is what they're showing here. All right, so here we go.
Getting involved in the space exploration, and it's outlined to go up to the year 2100. Okay, not only visiting the moon, but visiting all the planets in our solar system and visiting star systems. Okay, now He sent this to me and it blew me away. I never knew anything like this existed. So I contacted Bill Tompkins, I contacted Robert Wood.
Yes, he did say the year 2100. Visiting all the planets of our solar system. And other solar systems. That's pretty intriguing. Stand by. This gets really a lot of fun here.
And when Bill Tompkins heard about this, he said, Frank, he said, are they making this available? And I said, yes, Colonel Ware wanted you folks to have it. He said, we must be so close to disclosure right now because everything on this has been worked on for decades. When Bob Wood saw this, Bob Wood saw this, he said, Frank, everything on this chart has been accomplished decades ago.
Decades ago. Everything on this chart had been accomplished decades ago. And you'll see on the slide there, it says 1,000 years beyond what the public knows. Stand by for what he says next.
I said to Colonel Don Ware, I said, I always thought the difference between the black world of technology and the white world of what the public knew is 75 to 100 years. He said, Frank, no, it's 1,000 years. They're 1,000 years in advance of what the public knows. And I asked this to Bill Tompkins. I said, Bill, is it true that we could be that far in advance? He said, yes. He said, we're 1,000 years in advance of what the public knows.
1,000 years in advance, beyond what we are aware of, what we've been told. Think about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And the question is, how is it, how do they determine the 1,000 years? I mean, are they actually looking at technology that's so far advanced it'll take us 1,000 years to catch up? Or is this like the Moore's Law 1,000 years where things double and then double and then double and then double again, you know, and really it's time compression in a way.
Well, now we talked about this earlier, Moore's Law. Yeah, you mentioned that a couple of times. Mm-hmm. Can you kind of expand on that, Cat?
Okay, Moore's Law was a theory put forth having to do specifically with computers. In that the guy theorized, the guy whose name's Moore, coincidentally, he theorized that every 18 months the capability of computers would double. And then it would be an exponential doubling, like 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, so that over the course of the 18-month periods, you know, just a matter of 7 or 8 of these 18-month periods would put us 64 times as powerful as we are now. 128, 256, 512. That was Moore's Law, and it's actually turning out to be true. That, you know, and maybe even more so, because if you take a look at what we had 20 years ago, as far as like we had the 286, the 386, we had Windows 95, Windows 98, you know, 95 being 1995, Windows 98, and then 2000 and on up, Windows XP, etc. And we've watched the actual size of these programs, and they really are programs because they go directly into computers, but we've watched the size of these programs grow hugely, exponentially, as we're seeing with Moore's Law, and we also have seen the computing power. Like, for example, we take a look at this little thing that you carry around in your pocket called a cell phone. Has more computing power in that little cell phone. In fact, the one that Thumper's got, he's got, what is that, is an iPhone 4?
Yeah.
And it's like how many generations past? We're looking at iPhone 10s. I don't know if they've gone up to 11 yet, but you're 6 generations past, and that computer you carry around in your pocket has more computing power than all of the computers combined that got us to the moon in 1969.
Right.
That little thing that he carries in his pocket. And if you, I mean, that is a result of Moore's law. That's a result of the advances made that is being, stated as Moore's law.
So in our discussion the other day when we were talking about this, let's go back to when they talk about the first UFO crashes, and they actually recovered what was left of these aircraft, and supposedly Velcro is one of the things that they discovered. Also, the fiber optic cable was another result.
Reverse engineering
of these craft that had crashed on our planet here, and so that could go as far back as let's see, the Roswell crash, and
47.
Then 1947.
1947. There was actually 2 crashes near Roswell, but
and then there was another one that was back east too.
Mm-hmm. And he references a couple more crashes in 1942.
And the 1942 was the Battle of Los Angeles. And I don't know how many of you folks out there in live chat actually have heard of the Battle of Los Angeles. Have you ever heard of that? Give us a thumbs up if you've heard of the Battle of Los Angeles. Because if you haven't, it's something that it was very significant. I mean, everybody in Los Angeles at the time knew about it. There's newspaper accounts about it, but you will not hear people talk about it. And it was significant. And I don't want to get into it too much because it'll be covered in the presentation here.
Check out there in live stream. Of course, I would expect nothing less from the Anons here, the autists here in Patriot Soapbox, but I would say the general public, probably maybe 10% has ever even heard of it, and maybe 10% of that has any data on it or has ever even looked any further into it.
Right.
Would be my guess.
Well, a lot of people out there, and I would expect a lot of people in our audience knows and have heard of the Battle of Los Angeles. But what was it really? What was presented, and what really did happen? That's going to be and that's going to be covered in the presentation here. So I'm going to continue on here.
All right.
Now, these are 10 stars that the distance was planned to go to visit, and we are actually out there. Bill Tompkins, if you don't know anything about him, he worked as part of the secret space program for Solar Warden to develop craft to go out into the cosmos, okay? He's an incredible individual.
Okay, and that's a picture of Bill Tompkins there. And it's actually a better picture than the one he had up there of Bill. And so I superimposed it over the video there.
Yeah.
So that was Bill Tompkins, who Jordan Sather was one of the first people that actually got a face-to-face, one-on-one interview with. And so good on Jordan Sather for doing that. Now, Jordan is a big proponent of the secret space program as well. And I followed Jordan for quite a while, and but he actually got to go face to face and did an interview with Bill Tompkins before Bill Tompkins passed away last August, which kind of raises a question. I'm going to wait a little bit before I throw that question out there. I was thinking about it earlier, but I don't want to get ahead of the video here. So here we go. So, but anyway, one of the questions to ask yourself here is selected by who and for what in relation to Bill Tompkins? Here we go.
Bill Tompkins is an incredible individual. He wrote a book called Selected by Extraterrestrials. I don't know if you ever heard of it. He talks about his experiences of having been brought to this planet, and he's one of 500 different individuals that were brought to this planet with extraordinary abilities to help in cultivating things behind the scenes. Okay?
Okay. Now here's we're going to get into in 1942 was the Battle of Los Angeles. What was that? What was the Battle of Los Angeles?
Yeah, and Sassy Q out there gave a little bit of what we're told was the Battle of Los Angeles, also known as the Great Los Angeles Air Raid, the name given by contemporary sources to the rumored enemy attack by Japan and subsequent anti-aircraft artillery barrage. No, not so much.
I mean, if the Japanese had actually attacked our mainland in 1942, are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so.
I don't think Japan would be much more than a smoking heap had that been the case.
No, we that wouldn't have passed muster at all.
No.
So yeah, here goes. And we're waiting. It's a long
the craft that was over Los Angeles in 1942. There was.
Okay, now I'm going to stop it here. Air battle rages over Los Angeles. U.S. guns blaze at planes over L.A. Guns hurl 2-hour barrage at planes over Los Angeles. Anti-aircraft guns blast at L.A. mystery invader. Okay, for 2 hours. Okay.
Parked over Los Angeles for several hours, and
yeah, something was parked over the top of Los Angeles for 2 hours.
Right. The Japanese had that kind of technology, right?
Yeah, they could just park something in the sky over there for 2 hours.
Yeah, a mile diameter thing up there in the air, just sitting over the top of LA. Yeah, the Japanese had that all right, didn't they?
Yeah.
No.
Ships and artillery batteries fired upon it. They fired every artillery shell, every shell that was on board the boats at Long Beach Harbor.
Okay. Now, that was 1942. Yes, he did say 1942. That's over 75 years ago. And I already asked the question, did you hear about it? Well, many of you have. A lot of people had not. So
these are actual historical occurrences.
Yeah,
this isn't something that somebody speculated, et cetera. Of course, a lot of the information is open to speculation, but the actual event itself is etched in our history.
Yep. Here we go.
And there were dozens and dozens of smaller craft that came out of the large craft. He said the large craft was 1 mile in diameter. And he said 2 of the craft were knocked down that came out of this large mothership. One went in the San Gabriel Mountains, and one of them went into the sea. The one that went into the San Gabriel Mountains was recovered by the Army. The one that went into the sea was recovered by the Navy.
Go Navy!
And Thumper and I, when we looked at this, the first thing that both of us said was that the one that went into the sea probably was in better condition than the one that crashed in the mountains.
Yeah.
And that probably they got a whole lot more data out of that one, the one that was in the sea, than the one that they got in the mountains.
Which is going to tie into something that you're going to hear in the presentation here in a little bit.
Yeah.
No, Valiant Thor is not mentioned in this, and I would, I'm somewhat familiar with Valiant Thor. That's another interesting aspect of the visitors that they do talk about here. Hey, check out that link there by Mr. Purple Tie. See if you can grab that, DC.
Hang on just a second here. Let me take a look. It's out in live chat?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's got a link there in live chat.
Ooh, I see it.
Unlisted link to live action video of Battle of LA. Okay.
Ooh, oh, Jeff Rentz. Yeah, this is from Jeff Rentz.
Very cool. All right, here we go. Go Navy.
Go Navy.
I took a little license on this one.
What I didn't know about that chart, was that Bill Tompkins told me the genesis of this chart, he started when he was at Douglas Aircraft in 1952. The genesis of this went back to 1952. His original chart and his plan for this was to be laid out in a horizontal format, not a vertical format. The horizontal format was much easier for the mind to comprehend.
Okay, now, the question arises, just if those of you that maybe have looked at this or saw the what I put up on the screen there in the screen share earlier, this chart.
Yeah, and I gave it out there to YouTube, so everybody's got it.
So you guys got a lot of this information there. Now, here, Only Cuff, nice putt. Yeah. But in order to have laid this out, and let's see, you said 1942. All right. They had to have been aware of technology. Maybe they hadn't been fully developed yet, but they had to have some idea of the technology and to be able to lay out this flow chart as to, how this was going to progress. And
all the way up to 2100.
All the way out to 2100.
Mm-hmm.
So what type of technology did they have back in 1942 that they had to base this on, and the advancement of that technology to get them to the goals that they had placed out there for 2100? I call it war gaming it out. One step after the next step, after the next step, after the next step, and then what does it take to accomplish each one of those steps? Well, as you can see in this chart, those of you that have downloaded it or maybe looking at it now, you better not be. I put a lot of work in this video. You better be paying attention here. But no, it's you'll see that just I would like to have seen, how they actually laid all this out in 1942, because they named things here. They now obviously some of the stuff, we can go out to 2018, 2023. 1942. Did they know that it was going to be called? Some of the spacecraft. What were the program names for them and that stuff? Did they know that? Did Bill Tompkins know that? Was he privy to some information that other folks didn't have yet? And keep that question in your mind as we move forward through the video here, because there's some answers to that. Here we go.
Pregnant pause.
To comprehend and understand what is pertinent here, what is disclosed here. You can't go from one aspect of space exploration to the next without following every one of those steps. It's tens of thousands of man-hours in this. Bill Tompkins' original chart, which is now with Dr. Bob Wood. Dr. Bob Wood was a member of the Douglas secret think tank for 42 years.
That's a very big chart. 6 feet by what did you say? 3 feet?
6 by 3 feet.
Douglas secret think tank for 42 years. Bill Tompkins was a member of the secret think tank that was more secretive than what Bob Wood knew when he worked on this. His original chart is 6 feet long. and 3 feet wide. It's unbelievable. Several years ago, he had shown it to Bob Wood, Michael Sala, and Corey Good. When Corey Good saw that, he jumped back. He said, "I never thought I'd ever see anything like this."
Okay, and as the slide, it just gets more and more interesting as he walks this thing out a little bit, a little bit more, and starts tying it back and then moving it forward again. So, be paying attention. There will be a test at the end of this, by the way.
Yeah, there will be a quiz. One of the things that I thought about, well, I've had my my concerns about the veracity of Corey Good, but the fact that Corey Good is being mentioned here and is being brought forth as, in reference to all the stuff that he's revealed, kind of gives me a little bit more, it's like confirmation that the guy may be on the up and up.
Quite possibly.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, not to throw in a big disclaimer, but keep in mind, this is, use your discernment here.
Yeah.
Everybody use your discernment here.
Okay, here we go. It's coming.
He said everything that Tompkins worked on opened the door for what work that Corey Good was involved in as being an emissary for our planet with other civilizations. Okay, it's unbelievable. When Bill got the copy of the Rockwell chart, he had Bob Wood send to me a 300-page document from Douglas that he was part of, that described 25 different advanced propulsion systems for getting out into the stars. Okay, it was his personal copy. It had his name on it, William Tompkins, and it had his notes. It was 300 pages. It talked about anti-gravity. It talked about ionic propulsion. It talked about other faster than light speeds. Okay.
Now, just something here. Light speeds, faster than light speeds. What could be faster than light speeds? Keep that in mind.
When Bill was a young boy.
Now, here's some background information on William Tompkins. And I got to tell you, as someone who grew up building models, did I ever tell you what the first model I ever built was?
I don't. Maybe.
The first model that I ever built was a model of the our first satellite that we put up. Boy, I don't even remember the name of the satellite. The very first satellite that we put up. That was Telstar,
wasn't it?
Yeah, Telstar.
Telstar.
Yeah. But no, the local hardware store had a little section, a toy section in there, and I convinced my dad to buy that plastic model of the, and it was round. You basically put two halves together and had little bumps and things on it. I was very, very young at the time, but that was the very first model that I ever built.
You know what the first model I ever built was?
What was her name?
Natasha. No, actually, it was a Korean War vintage F-86 Sabre.
Oh, okay. Cool. All right. So Bill Tompkins was an incredible model maker, and as if you aren't aware of what he did and how he built them, we're going to get into that here, and we'll add to the story as we go. Here we go. And these pause slides here are, I hit the pause button when they come up because we don't have enough time in the slide to actually talk, so I pause it. And these are kind of little notes as we go along, so that we didn't want to get ourselves into trouble by playing this video all the way through and then having problems with that. So but it gives us a chance to stop the video and talk about some of the things and add some, more interesting information to the presentation here. Yeah, DC, what?
No, that I didn't have a comment there. I just was kind of assenting to what you were saying there. Yes.
So and anyway, so if when I say here we go, I'm not, because I can't see the little marker and where the slides actually end, but most of them are less than about 10 seconds long, or right at about 10 seconds. So anyway, here we go. This one's obviously a little longer.
When he was a young boy, he has a photographic mind, a photographic memory. His father took him into Long Beach Harbor, and he saw craft boats in Long Beach Harbor, and he made models of them. And he gave 3 of the models to a local hobby shop.
Okay. Now they didn't live too far from the Long Beach naval base at the time, and he could see a lot of the ships from just going down next to the water there and looking out at the ships there, and it was a naval station at the time. But and I've watched videos of Bill Tompkins describing how occasionally they would have an open house, and they would, and he loved going down in the open house and going up on the ships and things like that. And he had a photographic memory. And what he would do is he would just walk around and just everything stuck, every little detail. He was a very, very detail-oriented individual. And if he didn't really have an idea of what the dimension was, let's say up on the conning tower, there was an antenna or some kind of a structure up high that he couldn't get to. Well, he described waiting until later in the day when the shadows were out, and the shadow of like the mast or whatever would be falling onto the rest of the ship, and then he could actually walk out the distance, and then he would calculate the size of different portions of the ship that he couldn't actually get to, and go home and write all this stuff out, and then build these models from memory. And this is before there were plastic models kits. I mean, he carved these things out of wood and whatever. Absolutely incredible. I mean, that alone is remarkable. Bill Tompkins was a remarkable person. All right, here we go.
Okay, and the hobby shop was in Long Beach, California, and some Navy personnel happened to go by the hobby shop, and they wanted to know who made those models because they were so exact, and they showed things in those models that nobody had ever seen before. So the hobby shop owner said, William Tompkins made them, and he lives in Long Beach. So the 2 Navy personnel went to Long Beach, and they talked to the father, and he said, it wasn't me, it was my son.
Now, when Bill Tompkins was describing this in one of the videos that I watched, and this was about 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, when Bill Tompkins started coming out and talking with Corey Good and then eventually Jordan Sather, he describes when these guys actually came to the house, they actually thought that he was some kind of a spy, or that he was working some kind of a surveillance program, because the intricacy of what he put in these models was incredible. There were parts of the antenna masts and up in the conning towers and things like that, exterior bumps and boxes and things like that he included in his models. That if he saw it, he rendered it. All right. And as a result, they were going, how did you get information about that? How did you know to put that there? He says, well, I saw it. I saw it on the ship and I remembered it. And so I put it on my model. It's that simple. But they actually thought that they had, discovered a spy ring or something like that. And they were very suspicious of not him, but his father, actually. They didn't suspect William, because he was a young kid. I'm not sure what age he was, but when they learned the whole story and he showed them, they went into his room and he describes that he had just stacks and stacks of drawings that he did, and he'd come home from these excursions to the to watch the ships, and then he would draw these things out, and he had just stacks and stacks of these drawings and stuff. And when they finally realized that this kid was brilliant and had some incredible talents, then things got really interesting after that.
They approached the son. They said to the father, we would like to bring him into the Navy. He was brought into the Navy at the age of 15, okay? He has this gifted ability to be able to tune into things and to be able to see things at a higher level than any of us could ever see, okay? And he'd only have to see something once, and he could commit it to memory and create it. At the age...
Okay, and then something else. He hand-built these models. I think I expressed that already, but just to appreciate, the work and the effort that he put into these things. Amazing individual.
Probably before they had X-Acto knives too.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
At the age of 15, he was brought into the Navy. His father made the Navy agree that he would never see combat, so he never saw combat. He was part of a team where they worked with a Navy admiral and 2 captains that were basically taking information from 33 Germans that were in the German army and taking information regarding advanced technology that the Germans had.
Okay, now this is where they start getting into. They realized that Bill had a tremendous engineering skill, observation skills, and then memory skills. And at this time, then Germany was working on some really high tech stuff. And if you followed a lot of the tie-ins to the other stuff that we've talked about, leading up to World War II with the Nazis and the Germans and what they were doing. They were infiltrating the United States at the time. And all of this, tied into the central banks, blah, 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 blah. So you got to wonder, this, what he was actually doing was receiving information coming out of Germany, being brought to the United States, and then being delivered to the military-industrial complex through the military. And Bill Tompkins was a part of that process. Now, at that time, that was highly secretive work. And, you're talking James Bond spy kind of stuff, getting these incredible documents describing highly advanced German science discoveries and technology that they've been working on in Germany, and they were bringing it over here and using the power of our industrial and what's the word I'm looking for? Our industrial strength, our
you mean our level of technology?
Well, just we had a level of industry here in the United States that had been built up for World War II.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for the war effort, yes.
Yeah, our industrial might. And that's, they were going to use, I think that was a part of the program as far as the deep state, in America, where it was really starting to get a foothold. And they saw the power that the United States had, and all they had to do was control it. So they were bringing that information over and feeding it to the military-industrial complex. And as a result, the military-industrial complex was getting very, very powerful, and the ability to produce and and do all this stuff and keep it highly, highly classified at the same time. How many people would actually just fall over if they understood all of this has been going on? How many people would actually be just awestruck to find out that there actually has been anti-gravity craft able to travel at faster than the speed of light ever since the 1940s.
And are you starting to see the beginnings of the deep state here?
Oh, yes.
Yes, from us.
Absolutely.
Technology from us.
Absolutely. All right, here we go.
He was brought into this program, and he worked in San Diego. This is one of the photographs of him with some of the women that he worked with, and you could see the badge that he has here, showing his classified designation. Okay, Dr. Michael Salla is working with. There were supposed to be 6 books. Selected by Extraterrestrials was going to be 6 volumes of Bill Tompkins' career. Okay, the first one was released. The second one is in the process of being.
Okay, and pay attention. These beautiful women that are hanging out with him and everything. That became a trademark of the people that were in his life throughout, basically. Beautiful Nordic-looking women. Where did they come from? Here we go.
Well, the big brain is quite attractive from everything I've heard.
Oh, yeah.
Completed now. Dr. Michael Salla has appealed to the, under the Freedom of Information Act, information about Bill Tompkins' background, and he got photographs of Bill Tompkins working at these secret think tanks that Bill Tompkins never thought would be released. They're going to be in the upcoming book that they're working on right now. Bill said they have photographs that I never thought I'd ever see again. Were taken 40, 50, 55 years ago.
All right, now we're going to get into some information that, newly released information, bigger than you can imagine. Where have we heard that phrase before?
That's, that sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Think about it. Okay, here we go.
This is a document that Michael Salla was able to get that shows his confidential background in debriefing and supplying information that they were getting from these German operatives that were put into packets of information, and Bill Tompkins was given the responsibility of taking the Admiral's plane and flying to MIT, to Caltech, to Stanford, to Princeton, to share the packets of information.
Can you imagine being a young man in the 1940s, involved in something like this?
Yeah, talk about a young man's blank dream.
Yeah, no kidding. I couldn't help but think of that. Go back into the 1940s. And, here he is being swept up into the Navy at the age of 15. And then, playing, spy courier with highly advanced technical information that he actually understood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And probably was the only one that understood it.
One of the few that did, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty extraordinary, when you think about it.
Information for back engineering for technology, okay? And he completed those missions all during the war years. This is where he worked out of. This is North Island, San Diego, okay? This was taken in the late 30s. Boy, if that doesn't look like something out of a science fiction movie today, but that's in the late 30s. That's where they debriefed the 33 German operatives that were rotated in on a.
Okay, And that is a personal photo that I took back in 2008, or 2009, excuse me. Actually, it was August 7th in 2009 when I actually took that picture when I was down there with my son. I have been stationed there at North Island. Not actually stationed. I went through several different schools there. And so I've actually spent quite a bit of time on North Island Naval Air Station. And this is a picture taken from Point Loma on the north end of San Diego Bay there on a beautiful August afternoon. But up until it became a Army reservation, it had, that whole island there had been basically unused. Kind of interesting. Why would there be such a huge piece of land in the San Diego harbor there unused? That always just kind of weirds me out. At first, I thought it was a man-made island, but I think it's just a huge sandbar or something. I don't know, but it's an interesting place, that's for sure. Here we go. Yeah.
On a singular basis, one at a time, and they would share information with him. Bill Tompkins would tune into their experiences and create drawings and designs based upon what they were saying, and those design packets were taken to these universities for back engineering craft, okay? This is a picture taken of him that was in a newspaper, talks about a Douglas engineer and his hobby, okay? He continued.
Okay, and what they were doing is, they were back engineering highly advanced air/spacecraft from documents obtained from German operatives in the 1940s and the 1950s.
And Patriotsky asked Operation Paperclip.
Well, that had a lot to do with the Nazis that were coming over. Mm-hmm. A lot of them were scientists, and a lot of them were people that. Bureaucrats and things like that. They were given special consideration after the war
because of what they knew
and brought over here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Geckelbug attended Micro-Min School on Whidbey Island, and then somebody else was saying that they went to calibration school on North Island. I went through survival, evasion, resistance, escape school there. In North Island, and a couple of different times I had to go back there for requalifications for air crew on Navy aircraft and things like that. And spent a little bit of time on North Island, that's for sure. All right, here we go. And it'll start in a moment here.
He continued to make models of ships and craft and things like that, but his real love was working and designing craft that went out into the stars. He worked on Solar Warden craft, okay? This is a photograph of him as a draftsman at Douglas at the secret think tank that he worked in. This is a picture of Maria Orsic. She was part of the Vril Society in Germany.
Okay, this is the first time we heard the name Solar Warden. And again, how many people have heard of Solar Warden? You may have if you're following the secret space program.
Well, and Maria Orsic, who was supposedly Norwegian, obviously Nordic in appearance.
Mm-hmm.
And she was actually, in a way, I suppose, captured by Hitler, and according to some of the memoirs, was forced to use her connecting capabilities for the Nazis. And she was not a Nazi, didn't want to have any part in it, but was coerced into doing it by torture and psychological methods.
Well, remember when they talked about he talked about it very early on in the video here of 500 individuals that were here as part of basically a seeding program in order to raise the consciousness of the people here on Earth, and to kind of jumpstart our technology and our consciousness. So we'll it covers more of it in the video presentation here. So here we go.
In a second.
Yeah.
And it said that she had the ability of being able to tune in and to be able to open up portals. And Bill Tompkins said that every secret think tank that he worked at, he said there were 2 females that worked at those think tanks and 1 male that were not from here. He said the 2 women were Nordic women that looked like us. They would pass as Earthlings. They were just wearing Earth clothes. And he said the one that he worked with at Douglas.
Yeah, the beautiful Nordic women who helped seem to have special abilities. And we'll hear more about
This looked very, very similar to Maria Orsic. He said it was not Maria Orsic, but he said she looked similar to it, okay? And he said they would help him. I said, Bill, how would they help you? He said they would give me a project to work on, and he said I would get a flash of light in my mind, and he said I'd be able to see what needed to be designed, what needed to be built.
Okay, the women appeared to communicate via their thoughts to William Tompkins the designs for his extraordinary craft. And he's going to describe a little bit of that here as we go a little bit further in.
This is a poor rendition of one of the designs of a battle cruiser that he designed.
Actually, the rendition that he shows on the screen there is the same one as this one, but I found a better image. So this is not a poor rendition of the drawing, but this is one of the drawings that was done by William Tompkins. You can see down in the bottom right-hand corner, founder and chairman W.M. Tompkins in the bottom corner down there. Now, what do you think those little triangles next to the left of the craft are? What do you think those are? You think maybe that's a mothership, and those are some of the smaller ships that is aboard this thing. And and you'll also notice on the side of it, it says U.S. Navy. Go Navy!
And down below there, it says Naval Galactic Battle Group flagship.
Flagship, yeah.
Yeah. Wait till you hear what the size of this thing is.
Yeah. Here we go.
Okay. Here's another one. These craft were 17 kilometers long. 17 kilometers long. That's 10 and a half miles. Okay. He said they built these items, and he said they used the propulsion systems that had been developed, and they could fly faster than the speed of light.
Okay, huge spacecraft up to 10 miles long, ready to take on interstellar space. Very interesting.
And I said to him, I said, Bill, I said, these craft, and he said they worked on 7 different groups of craft, okay? Look at the size of this, 2.5 miles. Unbelievable sizes. These are renditions of things that Bill had designed that's actually out there, okay? I said, Bill, how would you see these things? Would they be like in a holographic display? He said, no, more intense than that. I said, in what way? He said, I'd be able to see things at the integrated circuit level. I said,
the integrated circuit level. So he could they when they would project these images to him and feed him this information, mind to mind, basically. He could see it all the way down to the integrated circuit level. Amazing spacecraft measured in miles, not feet. That's incredible.
Yeah, that aircraft carrier right there is about 1,000 feet long. We're talking about 1/5 of a mile, as opposed to 10 miles. Whoa,
That's huge.
that's big.
Yeah, that's, we think aircraft carriers are large.
I said, you got to be kidding me. He said, no. He said, it would be crystal clear to me. And he would design these craft. And he said, we had the ability of being able to go from the Earth to the middle of our galaxy in 45 minutes. In 45 minutes. He said the next 3 battle groups that they were working on, or next 3 solar warden groups, were going to be using a faster propulsion than that. And he said, what do you think that would be? And I said, there's only one thing faster.
Okay, fleets of these spacecraft engineered to travel at the speed of thought? On my good days, I can think pretty fast.
Yeah.
Faster than light. And I said, it's thought. And he said, that's right. He said, they're using thought propulsion. He said, now there's scientists working today. I'll mention a name to you. One is named Jack Sarfati. He's a graduate of Cornell University. He's a physicist. And he's part of a nucleus of scientists that are going to be part of disclosure. And it has been said that he has been shown the memory metal that was found at Roswell. Memory metal is...
Okay, so what we're getting into is disclosure. And if you've been following space program, secret space program, and Antarctica and all of that, also the political side, it's disclosure of all of this stuff going on, and I would describe this as being the really cool side of the disclosure that we're going to be getting. Now, the other part of it is the political side, the criminal side, the dark side, the control the people side that we're we got to get that mess cleaned up before we get to this stuff. All right, because this is the stuff I'm really anxious to see, and I know most of you are. Those that follow the the secret space program. And that's one reason why Dead Cat and I have gotten into a lot of this stuff, like the egregore and the blue apple, because when we start messing around in the heaven, do we want to take all of our garbage with us, or do we want to get a fresh start as we become an interstellar society moving throughout space in the heavens, and have a better understanding of the whole cosmos and the whole spiritual aspect of it? I mean, do you think it's possible that, as we clean up our act and really start working on ourselves individually, that these folks that have come here to help us, they were at one time like us, not as enlightened, not as it's time for us to take that next step. We're going from kindergarten into grade school, or however you want to think about it. So, and Erin Neely, she says, by the way, thanks for the blue apple. I opened my Bible again. That's excellent, because our spiritual enlightenment also comes along with our technical enlightenment.
And if it doesn't, we're in deep trouble. That's exactly how we got to where we are today, is getting ahead technologically and ignoring the spiritual side of it. Mm-hmm. That's how we got to where we are. And that's where the secret societies came from. That's where the fear and the fear mongering and the fear porn created by our deep state has gotten a hold of us, because we fell in love with the technology and forgot to keep our spirit clean and keep our honor clean.
Mm-hmm. Michael Salvador says, hey, Thumper, I got a nice meme for you. Well, drop it in a DM to me, and in the Patriot Soapbox server there. You can DM it to me at Thumper there in the Patriot Soapbox server. All right, here we go.
Before you go any further,
Sure.
I got something. I sent you a picture, DM in your DM.
Just recently?
Yeah, the last one I sent you. It's
yeah.
An actual picture of one of the Nazi saucers.
Oh, okay. Hang on a second. Let me see. Oh, yeah. Seen that.
Well, do we want to maybe flash that in there for a second? Because it kind of dovetails with the thought propulsion that we were just introduced to.
Hang on here just a second. Let me. All right. And there we go.
Okay.
There you go.
You guys see this? You see this? Everybody's seeing this. You see that they have cannons attached to the dome turret. This is an actual photograph. This is something that they built in Nazi Germany.
Yep.
It's an actual photograph, a real picture of a real thing that they built, but they could never get it to work. It never did work the way that they wanted it to. And in reference to the thought propulsion, how would you think that would work? You'd have to have kind of a clarity of thought.
Okay, but back when they were doing this, they didn't have thought propulsion back then.
No, they didn't.
But it's just something that they're now starting to work on. These craft here were very early designs of anti-gravity craft. Mm-hmm. I believe that it was the system that used mercury spinning up. They had to spin mercury in order
like 60,000 RPM, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I forget what it was. But then this was stuff all that Tesla was working on as well.
Right.
So
what I was alluding to there was that perhaps the reason they couldn't make it work is because their thinking was tainted by hatred.
I know you mentioned that the other day, but my understanding, actually, what I was thinking is that when you have a craft that's stabilized by anti-gravity, what actually holds it in place? And if you're firing, my thought was, if you're firing kinetic weapons that have a like a rifle, it has a kick,
has a
recoil to it. And if you're flying in a craft that's not stabilized properly for that recoil, it could make that aircraft very, very unstable in flight. Do you think?
Yeah, that could be an issue, couldn't it?
I honestly think that's one of the biggest problems.
That may very well be true. You might be closer than closer in reality than I was with my theory, because
Well, when it gets to the thought propulsion, I mean, there's all kinds of things that we can think about as far as the spiritual side of thought and everything, but I guess we'll find out someday.
Yeah. And Danusia out there says the German Hanabu, and that is what that craft is.
Right.
That's what they called it. It actually did fly.
Yes.
But you may be absolutely right that maybe it was unstable enough because of the gravity drive or the anti-gravity drive. It was unstable enough so that, you fire your cannons and, you're pushed, a half mile in the opposite direction. So you lose any advantage.
Plus, the people who were actually working on this weren't really that interested in the whole world domination thing, and that's one reason why they pulled out of Germany and went to Antarctica, and that's really what gave rise to all the talk about the Germans all escaping to South America and South Africa, mostly South America.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about it, look at all the trouble that we're having in South America right now, Brazil and that. They seem to, all these nutcases, want to hang out in South America. What the heck?
I imagine the people who lived there before these people showed up are wondering, who the hell are you people?
Yeah, really.
Why are you messing up our nice, comfortable lifestyle here?
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Piece of metal that looks like aluminum foil you could crunch up in your hand, and it gets compressed just like aluminum foil. You open up your hand, and it straightens itself out again. It said that he's been shown this. He's come up with a series of equations now, physics equations, utilizing metallurgy with awareness and consciousness. He said.
Now, here's something else. A lot of the equations that were being used at the time, coming into all this, were not entirely accurate. And when they discovered the problems with the equations, they were able to fix them. And once they get that, I wonder who put the salt in the why were we working with bad math for such a long time? Yeah, do you think that was a coincidence?
No, there are no coincidences.
Right.
And possibly the defects were put into the formulas in order to keep us from finding this stuff out.
Quite possibly. So once they corrected the equations, we were able to make some significant advances in high-tech innovations.
He said, this is what the star visitors are using. They're using awareness, consciousness with metallurgy to be able to use thought propulsion to get from one place to another. He said, we're not at that point yet. He said, we could back engineer this stuff, but we can't layer atoms the way they do. They're layering atoms in a way that we can't.
Now, that is something that kind of struck me when layering atoms, and DC and I have talked about this when it comes down to nanotechnology. Imagine if we were able to manufacture things at the nano molecular level. Nanotechnology is basically, constructing things at a very, very small molecular level. You could miniaturize things to almost right down to basically using the minimum number of molecules of each individual element in order to build a component, an electronic component or something like that. Imagine what you could do with something like that. And so when he said layering at the molecular level, it'd be like, printing at a molecular level, a printer that could, a molecule of gold, a molecule of gold, a molecule of gold, molecule of gold, and building up just enough so that now you have a conductor that will conduct the proper amount of electricity through a circuit. And
exactly.
Yeah. And when you talk about our printed circuits now, look at our, like the processors and things like that, with just thousands and thousands and thousands of basically millions of different components and they actually grow these as a crystal. And think of that technology that's necessary to do that. That's really, really remarkable. But if you're able to, bring it down all the way down to a nano level, imagine the computing power that you could have in the smallest of devices. I'm still amazed. These little memory cards that I get for my cameras, little teeny tiny cards that are a quarter of an inch square, 64 gigabytes of memory in that thing. That's incredible, and it's about the thickness of about 5 sheets of paper. That's incredible. And imagine where we were when we were working with 286s and the size of the hard drives, and you get 5 megabytes or something like that of memory in it.
That was a massive data data trove that you could have. But I remember hard drives back with the 286s, 2 megabytes, 1 megabyte. That was big. That was huge.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what we can do with this. And then, there's Moore's law. Yeah. In just this short of time, look at what we've got now. We got terabytes.
See, from that old aircraft carrier to this, and you're looking at the USSF Trump number 45.
Thanks to the Anand that designed this. This is so cool.
Yeah. A spacecraft carrier. And you can just imagine, just scale that thing. That thing is several miles long. All right, here we go.
So Bill Tompkins designed these craft, 7 groups of craft, and he worked on these up until the time he passed, which was about a year ago in August. He passed. He left us. But he left a lot of information that's still going to be revealed and released. I mentioned before about Dr.
Somebody was asking, when was this presentation made? It was made earlier this year. Okay, so this is a very up-to-date presentation.
Bob Wood, he's also a physicist from a graduate of Cornell, and he's aware of a lot of the black arts and black things that are known that are going to be.
And there you go. Something else. Dark to light. Black, he used the phrase black arts. And then we talk about black programs, dark programs. All of this stuff is hidden in the dark. And then, we've had Q saying dark to light. Dark to light.
What a coincidence.
Do you think it also involves the bringing out into the light of these programs? I certainly hope so. I am ready to, put our world on the right track with advanced technologies, and use it for the good of everyone, and bring everybody up to a really. I want everybody to just enjoy the wonder that God has given us, instead of fighting over it. Stop the fighting. Knock it off.
Well, how do we get there?
Put them in timeout.
Who's pushing for disclosure?
Yeah.
Who is pushing for disclosure? More is going to be revealed on that in this presentation, but who do we know right now that's pushing for transparency and disclosure?
Well, let's just let the presentation say it. All right.
There we go.
Here we go. All right. Here we go. Did we wet your whistle? Who's really pushing for disclosure? Here we go.
made available. Some of it's going to be released in upcoming books about Bill's background and his experience. These are just incredible craft. This is one of the last ones that he worked on, okay? Both this part and this part could come off and go off into the galaxy.
K.R. Nod, U.S. Secret Space Force.
And come back again and return. I know some of the stuff is really amazing for you to even think about, that we have this kind of capability, but apparently we do. I showed this to him. This is a comparison of the USS Hillenkoetter. Hillenkoetter was the first director of the CIA. This is one of the first Solar Warden craft that was named after a CIA director. Look at it in comparison to a plane and to an aircraft carrier.
Thumper?
Yeah.
You brought up a very interesting question when we were looking at this before.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, do you see the name of that guy, Hillenkoetter?
Yeah.
First CIA director with the name Hillenkoetter.
Right.
That's kind of pretty obviously a German name, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah.
It's kind of, yeah, it kind of glows in the dark as a German name. And he was the first CIA director. Does that kind of give anybody a hint?
You know,
it was going?
What we're finding out is they actually came over here with the full intent of starting these organizations, the CIA. They were seeded into our intelligence community, and the eventual goal was to get to where we are right now, with all the mess, all the craziness, all the wacky doodle stuff going on, so that they could continue to. It's been driven by the dark forces, the dark force. You know, funny that his name is the bear, the light bearer, or something like that, or what's I can't think of it right off the top of my head.
Are you
for Satan? For Satan.
Lucifer?
Yeah, Lucifer, Satan, whatever you want to, whatever name you want to give it.
Lord of Light.
Lord of Light. Yeah, Lord of Light.
Yes.
Yeah, meaning I guess he lords all the light and it leaves everybody else in the dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. So keep watching.
When I showed this to Bill, he told me intimate details of what's inside of this. It's unbelievable. It's like he was inside of it, and he could tell me everything that's inside of this craft. You might want to wonder, where are these things being built? And I said to Bill, where are these things being built?
Yeah, where do you build an aircraft? A spacecraft? You build it out in space? Or
I got to step away for a second.
Okay. Do you build it out in space, or if you're going to build it here on, where do you build something that's 10 miles long, and nobody has a clue? How do you do that? That's pretty remarkable. So where could they build such spacecraft? I think we're going to find out here in a moment.
He says they're being built in Utah at the base of the Wasatch Mountains. He said they've constructed an underground facility, and he said there's doors that open up. Each door is 20 city blocks long, okay? Both doors open up into an underground facility, and he said it is so precise that when the doors open up, the plant life, the cactus, everything above ground does not get disturbed.
Yeah. In Utah, no less. in the Utah desert at the base of the Wasatch Range. And for those of you that have never seen the Wasatch Range, great skiing, by the way. The Wasatch Range just comes just out of the desert. I mean, it's incredible, just like that picture shows. Salt Lake City sits right at the base of the Wasatch mountain range, and those things go up to from the desert floor up to 12,000 feet. Some of the peaks there, and they just rise right up out of the ground. It's just incredible, absolutely gorgeous scenery there in Utah and the Wasatch Range. Incredible place.
And then the craft goes in and comes out, and everything closes up again. He said there's 30,000 people working at this facility. Okay, 30,000 people from Boeing, from Grumman, from Rockwell, from all the major aircraft companies. Have any of you seen the new Grumman aircraft commercial?
Okay, now we tried to find that Grumman aircraft commercial, and we could not find it. What he's going to describe there, but I went in and I found some videos of Grumman and some of their promotional videos and things like that. And this is one of them. But 30,000 workers. Okay, now question for you, DC: How do you get 30,000 people to go to work every day on secret space program and nobody says a word?
Well, I would guess, first of all, they probably love their job.
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, I know I would, but as far as keeping it secret, well, you've got NDAs, non-disclosure agreements.
Yeah, NDAs and also compartmentalization. The idea that you mentioned yourself in the machine shop that you were working on. You actually machined parts that were for, I think you said Boeing or something like that.
Rockwell, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin. We did a lot of subcontract work for all of these high tech and aerospace outfits, and all we saw was the drawing and make this out of this material.
Mm-hmm. And you had no idea what what it was going to be used in.
We theorized what they probably were going to go into, but you really don't know until somebody puts the whole thing together and you get to see it, which we didn't.
Right.
It shows a hangar that's fully lit, and there's no sound, there's no narration, there's no music, and there's something in the middle of the hangar, and it's got a tarp over it, and it's on a tripod. And the camera goes slowly around it. It's a fully lit hangar. The camera goes slowly around it. There's a tarp over what's in the middle. At the end of the commercial, a scroll comes across, and it said, "Wait to see what's next."
Yeah. What is next? And this is part of, what you're seeing here is part of the disclosure. It is a very, very soft disclosure. A lot of what we've seen in Hollywood movies and things like that is also what people describe as soft disclosure, preparing you. Now, we know that, I'm a huge Stargate fan. I've got just straight across the room from me here, I've got every Stargate episode on DVD, and as well as Stargate Atlantis. Every one of those are on DVD, either DVD or Blu-ray or whatever. And if you start comparing, when you got into the later years of the series, they were building massive spacecraft underneath the desert, and all there would be is a little like guardhouse behind a fenced area. They go in, get in an elevator, and go down, and here to be this whole huge complex where they're building this, spacecraft. And yeah, there were doors that opened up in the desert floor, and this spacecraft would rise up out of it, and and you can't take them off, with jet engines or things like that, because just the noise alone. Can you imagine trying to raise something that's 10 miles long using jet propulsion?
Yeah.
It's not gonna work. I mean, good Lord, the amount of thrust and everything that you had to. I mean, we're talking, moving something bigger than a small, a large town.
Yeah,
You're for crying out loud.
Propulsion at the level of a volcanic eruption to get that thing off the ground.
So you'd have to use really highly advanced lifting and propulsion techniques in order to just get something like that out of the hole in the desert and up into space.
Yeah. Can you say anti-gravity?
Yeah, there you go. So what's next? Well, let's see what's next on here.
Shape of what looks like underneath that tarp is a flying saucer. So they're showing that commercial now. So, and they say at the end of it, wait to see what's next. Anyway, at the base of this Wasatch Mountains in Utah are where the craft are made. Bill told me, he said that the first porthole that they found was in Northern Virginia. He said the government found a porthole that they could go out into space.
Yeah, portholes where they could jump. Here we go, Stargate. Are these Stargates?
And he said after that, he said the Navy went around and they found portals all over the world. About 3 months ago, I was watching an episode of Ancient Aliens, and they were talking about portals, and they showed a map of portals all around the planet. And I said to myself, my God, that's the chart that Bill was telling me about that the Navy had created. They're showing the chart of the portals all around the country. And the first chart was the one that they found in Northern Virginia.
Yeah, they got there's portals all over the planet. And what do you do with a portal?
I want to digress a bit. Colonel Ware told me, he said, Frank, there's meetings that they have from the Pentagon on the moon. And he said, they go to the moon in 5 minutes. He said, they leave the Pentagon. He said, they travel west. And he said, they go through a portal. And he said, then they're at the moon. They go there for lunch. They have meetings on the moon. And he said, they come back again in 5 minutes. And he said, it goes on a regular basis.
I wonder if there's Swiss cheese on the sandwiches that you get on the moon.
Yeah.
just thinking, out loud. So they go out and they say they go out west. So I guess they have ways of leaving the Pentagon that they can't be seen. Now, this is something that's interesting because you and I brought it up, I think, on a Hyperdrive show here a while back, where it appears that there's a couple of TR-3Bs that are pacing Air Force One.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we actually showed the pictures.
Yeah.
And they don't look photoshopped.
No, these aren't photoshopped. And then there's the one where the airplane is flying along and something flies by it really, 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 really fast.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not sure, you just kind of go, oh, what? Oh.
Yeah, what was that? A glitch on the film.
Yeah.
But no, if you slow it way down, you
quarter
actually
speed,
cross the,
I know it sounds like science fiction, but these people are not making this stuff up. What's the tie-in with the world that we know of, okay? Everybody may have heard of Ben Rich. He was the director of Lockheed Martin Skunk Works. He made these incredible announcements before he passed away, okay? We already have the means to travel among the stars, but those technologies are locked up in black projects and would take an act.
Black projects, going to the stars, disclosure, visiting ET on their world. Bad mathematical equations now fixed. The future looks amazing.
Humanity. Anything you can imagine, we already.
What?
Wait a minute, just for a second. Go back to that picture of the center of the galaxy, or whatever. We're told.
Right.
We're told that this was taken with the Hubble telescope. If you could back that up just slightly, that this was taken with the Hubble telescope. Thumper and I were looking at this, and
hey, DC, I'm going to fill up my coffee cup while you're describing this. I'll be right back.
Okay. We got to looking at this, and the thought came that what if, this Hubble telescope supposedly is able to take pictures like this? What if the Hubble telescope didn't take this picture? What if this was an actual photo taken by somebody who visited this area and actually took that picture themselves? Because it certainly doesn't look like it came from a telescope, does it? I mean, obviously they've cleaned it up. They've made it rectangular or whatever to fit most people's screens. But what if this was an actual photograph taken by somebody who was there to see that at that close-up distance? I find that to be very, very fascinating to contemplate. Comic book picture to me, yeah, it sort of does, doesn't it? It sort of does. It sort of looks like an artist's rendition. It's kind of hard not to think that, but we've seen so many of them. There you go. Once again, there's a whole lot of speculation that can come out of this, and use your discernment. You may absolutely be right, but then again, what if? That's the question we're asking here. What if? And if in fact this guy is describing what actually is taking place, we're looking at they're saying 1,000 years of technology beyond what we know, beyond what we're given here. We know we know in our logical discernment that the piston engine that we still operate on now, that was invented well over a century ago, can't be the best that's available. It can't be, because the technology effectively, they've been dithering about the edges, making a little bit better here, a little bit better there, making the fuel injection a little bit better than carbureted, and various improvements, but they're like dithering about the edges. They're not really, they haven't made a quantum leap in the technology. And we know that if you take a look at just what we've seen in computers, just what we've seen in the ability of computers from the time that we were introduced to personal computing, PCs, from the time we were introduced to PCs to what we have today with this phone that you carry around with you, being more powerful than all of everything they had in 1969, you got to think that they had to have come up with something much more advanced than an internal combustion engine. It's clunky by its very nature.
Absolutely. And what is the efficiency of an internal combustion engine?
At very best, maybe 20%.
Exactly.
They lose heat. They lose, every bit of motion is wasted motion, except what goes through the drive shaft. It's maybe 20% efficient.
Well, here's Bart Simpson. His question out there leads us to another aspect of what we were discussing about this exact picture. And that his question is, my question is, how does telescopes and satellites travel among so many stars without hitting them? But think about this. We're talking about these space telescopes that are aimed out into the universe, and they're being represented that these are the pictures that they're taking with this telescope. But we can't get a clear picture of frickin' Mars. Are you kidding me?
And the best UFO picture that you can find throughout all of the videos that have been presented are pixelated little, well, this looks like it might be, or it seems to move like it might, and you get that kind of crap, and yet they can take a picture this detailed of the center of the galaxy. Yeah, right.
It makes absolutely no sense at all. Absolutely no sense whatsoever. Michael, I'm not getting your DMs. Let me check to see if I should be able to get your DMs, but I am not getting it. Are you sending it to Thumper? You keep saying you've dropped me a DM. I don't have it. Are you dropping it in the Patriot Soapbox server? If you are, try it again. Check to make sure you got there should only be one Thumper out there, but I'm not getting it. So as soon as I see it, I will open it up.
As far as I know, you're one of a kind there, brother.
I am.
For better or worse, right?
The one and only, yeah. Okay. There's only one dead cat. There's only one Thumper, and you got us both, aren't you?
That's it. That's it.
You feeling lucky, punk?
Yeah.
But no, I mean, seriously, they can take this kind of a picture from light years away, and we can't, we get fuzzy pictures of Mars.
Mm-hmm.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah, the moon. We're looking at what? The moon's maybe an average of 250,000 miles away, and we can't get a clear picture of details of the moon, but we can get a clear picture and detailed of the center of the galaxy. Yeah, right.
I don't buy it. I'm not buying it.
And why don't they just aim the Hubble telescope at the moon and give us a detailed picture of the moon? I wonder if because maybe they don't want us to see what's actually on the moon.
Are they hiding something?
Just a thought.
No, they wouldn't hide anything from us. They're being fully transparent with us.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, my ass.
Yeah. Turn that sucker around, give us a picture, and let's actually see what we've got.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see. Powder says there are two Thumpers. There is one all caps, and that is not you. Well, if there's somebody else in our server that's named Thumper, that's going to change.
Yeah, in a second.
We've already run down that road once before, and they will change their name. Since I'm an administrator in that server, not going to happen. Anyway, it just makes it easier for everybody. Anyway, make sure that you get it to the right Thumper, and that is a capital TH or capital T, small case, the rest. Send it to that one. Okay. So let's continue on here. But it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever that we are running around with the type of technology that we have right now. Are you the thing you drive back and forth to work every day?
Yeah,
is proof enough. That's 100 and some odd year old technology, all dressed up to make it look modern.
Yeah, they've actually got.
They want to sell you gas.
Three other Thumpers. I think that needs to get fixed.
Yeah. Okay, we get a picture of Thumper's ass and call it the moon. I don't think so.
Humanity. Anything you can imagine, we already know how to do. Anything you can imagine, we already know how to do. That's from Ben Rich.
Yeah, you see it there? Anything right here. Right there. Anything you can imagine, we already know how to do it.
And that's from the director of Lockheed Martin Skunk Works.
Yeah.
Kind of a guy who might know what he's talking about.
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
However, he's never met my imagination.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
Anything you can imagine? Oh.
Yeah.
Shall we play a game?
Yes.
Okay, the director of Lockheed Martin We now have technology to take ET home. No, it won't take someone else's lifetime to do it. There's an error in the equations. We know what it is. We now have the capability to travel to the stars.
All right. I thought this would be a good time to throw this one in. This is a quote from Q. Expand your thinking. Do you think it just means expand your thinking about the crime and the despicable actions of a few people? Or what about expand your thinking out into the universe? What does that mean? What does that mean? What does it mean to you? Does it inspire you that there is a better time, a better place, miraculous things that are God's creation out there in the universe? And as we go explore that, we get a better understanding of us and God and the creation as a whole. That just excites the heck out of me.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I just get tingly.
Well, I don't know. I've said it before here on Hyperdrive and probably on other presentations. But one of the things Einstein was famous for saying was he said the more science scrapes away at the face of knowledge, the more we see God's face staring back at us.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I 100% agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
The creation that God made for us is as his children. He put it out there and said, "Okay, go explore your backyard."
Yeah, check it out.
Yeah.
And Q post 2222 during the one of the Q&As that Q did. Q, are we alone? ? Roswell ? Q answers no. Highest classification. Consider the vastness of space.
Bingo.
Q. Bingo. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Consider the vastness of space. Expand your thinking.
Maxwell's equations. There was a book that was published in 1995. It's called Modified Maxwell Equations in Quantum Electrodynamics.
He said 1995. His slide says 1985.
By Harmuth and Barrett, okay? 1985, it was found that Maxwell's equations generally do not have solutions that satisfy the causality law.
Okay, and that is actually the causality law. He mispronounced that word. It's causality is the word that he was supposed to use. This is bigger than you can imagine. That came from a couple of Q posts.
New results. Maxwell's original equations form the foundation of classical electromagnetism, classical optics, and electric circuits. These are his 4 equations, and
those equations made it possible for highly advanced electronics and propulsion systems. Oh, I got propulsion. Okay.
I don't know. Okay. Is that a Freudian slip there?
It's fat finger disease, getting late in the afternoon. I was doing these late last night and then again this morning and this afternoon finishing up these slides. So there may be a typo or two in these.
Yeah, with a 15-minute nap, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. So,
yeah,
I got people illusion.
Oops. Yeah. All
right.
You're operating on fumes. However, they are highly advanced fumes.
Yes, very much so. It's amazing what you see when everybody else sees it at the same time.
Yeah.
Bill Tompkins continued to contribute information up until the time that he passed. He told me that he was a member of the Navy League The Navy League has two aspects: an outer league that works with Navy families, and
through all of the use of this, they were making these craft possible. These are artist renditions. Actually, this came off of I think this is a Lockheed Martin slide.
It's just Lockheed Martin, or is this Northrop Grumman?
Either one. I've got slides from both of them.
Right.
And
I think I saw this in the Northrop Grumman.
I think might be Northrop Grumman.
Yeah.
This is some of the stuff that they're envisioning, folks, or they have already accomplished.
Now, they had their children attend this farm, and this farm was maybe about 10 miles from Medford. And he said the children were taken to this farm, and these are all children of Navy personnel.
It's Medford, Oregon, by the way.
Yeah, Medford, Oregon. They have a facility there where Navy children are taken there, and they're trained and educated by the visitors. Okay. Now, and we're going to get into some more information about the visitors, so stand by here. Gets really fun. I'm having a ball tonight. I don't know about you guys, but I'm having a ball with this program tonight.
Yeah, so am I.
Yeah. There were going to be future members of Solar Warden. He said they would be taken to this farm, and he said there would be space beings there, male and female, wearing one-piece suits, and they would project holographic images of what these children would need to know to become part of Solar Warden. And he said he saw the farm where the children were taught this. And he said,
yeah, the visitors are educating and training children as future members of the Solar Warden Project. Interesting, huh?
And he said it goes on up until this day. He told me that he was invited from the year 2000. The Navy has a program in San Diego. It's called San Diego 2000. Then it's 2001, 2002. It's only for Navy personnel, high-ranking Navy personnel, NATO members, and scientists, okay?
So what's going on there? Senior Navy, high-ranking personnel, NATO members, and scientists meet annually in San Diego, California for 3 days. Interesting.
I want to go.
Oh, wouldn't that be cool?
Yes, it would.
Okay.
I wonder if they arrive in their TR-3Bs.
It's held every year for 3 days. He was invited to every one of these events up until 2017, which was the year he passed. He told me that the purpose of these meetings is to discuss advanced technology, advanced designs, and interacting with the visitors. And I said to him, Bill, when he went to the one in 2017, I said, Bill, did you get any grief at all from any of the commanders or admirals who were there? He said, I didn't hear one negative word.
And there you go. Bill Tompkins was invited to attend since the beginning. They discuss Solar Warden, advanced technology, and planning for the future of Solar Warden at these conferences. It's time for disclosure.
He said 1- and 2-star admirals would come up to me and compliment me because he was on Jeff Rentz. He had done dozens of interviews on Jeff Rentz. He said one 4-star admiral came over to him and put his arm around him and wanted to have a picture with him. He said they said nothing negative to him at all. I said, Bill, did the Navy give you any negative objection to anything whatsoever? He said only one thing. They told him do not use the internet.
Okay, here's when we start talking about disclosure, William/Bill Tompkins had the blessings of the leaders of the Solar Warden to disclose information about our advanced technology. So when he started coming out and talking with David Wilcock, Corey Good, and actually meeting with Michael Sala, Jordan Sather, and all these people. Talking about all this, and basically, they were. So we're talking about disclosure. Oh, okay. Hey, yeah. All right. Yeah, Michael Salvador, Danusia gave him. Okay. Oh, okay. You put it on the on my Twitter feed. Okay, good, cool, excellent. I'll check it out here. All
That
right.
DM.
Yeah, that DM. Okay, got it.
That DM. That other one.
Yeah.
So when I would correspond with him, it would be by telephone or by mail, or I would send to one of his friends a jump drive with information and share it with him. And I said, Bill, if they're telling you do not use the internet, don't use the internet. So we would correspond using snail mail, so to speak. But he participated in every one of these events for 17 years, and he said the access to these events is color-coded.
The San Diego events are highly classified. Attendees can only attend meetings that reflective of their clearance level. And he's going to tell you a little bit more about the different levels of clearance that are involved in this, which is again, you've got super secret probation. Well, it gets even higher than that.
Yeah. The clearance level that I've had over the course of my career, and you mentioned that I had a clearance to get onto the nuclear reservations at Hanford and Satsop and the Hartsville, Tennessee Valley Authority nuclear plants. But my clearance level probably would get me maybe into the sandbox at this event.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they put you at the kids' table.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Tell me the color that he had for his color code, but he said it's the second highest that's available. And he said all of space exploration is Navy oriented. He said the Air Force has always been the straw man in this for UFOs. He said the Navy's been behind us for forever. Any questions about this?
This is where you throw in the Go Navy. Go Navy!
Go Navy!
Yeah.
Well, and he goes into a little bit more of that here in the next few minutes here in the program. But Bill Tompkins held the second highest clearance available. All space exploration was U.S. Navy exclusively. The U.S. Air Force is the straw man. The U.S. Navy is the main player in all of this. And when you think about that, he's going to describe it here in a few minutes. How the Navy came upon having so much influence, and let's go back to the Battle of Los Angeles. They recovered the craft that landed in the crashed into the water. Well, like you were saying, we talked about the that craft was probably in a much better condition to be taken apart and reverse engineered than the one that crashed up in the mountains in the San Gabriel Mountains. And the other ones that the Army has recovered have all been land crashes, whereas if they crashed into the ocean, they're probably much more intact and able to and you have to realize back in those days, the competition between the military services, if one service had, everybody operated separately. The Navy was building ships and submarines, and the Air Force was building golf courses. Sorry, I had
nice putt.
Yeah, nice putt.
Yeah.
Okay, I got to step in at this point. I've been a casual observer up until now.
Kind of knew this was coming.
Well, you said you were going to be here. We were just checking to see if you were awake there, Pete.
Yeah, that's it.
They build great golf courses, let me tell you that.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. Okay, I'm ready for what's next, man.
All right, here we go.
A researcher that I knew when I lived in California. I had the honor and privilege of living in California twice and meeting some extraordinary people. I met a researcher by the name of Bill Hamilton, and he told me that in 1960 they had a base on Mars, that they were bringing engineers from Earth up there. They were taking only single men. They were not taking families. They were there for at least 6 months to a year. And he said,
yeah, so in 1960, a base on Mars? Staffed by single men on a 6-month rotation. Moving along here quickly.
And he said then they would come back to Earth again. I asked Bill Tompkins that. He said yes. He said we had a mission, and he said we had a facility on Mars as early as 1960. My uncle, who was in the Air Force for 30 years, he designed closed-circuit monitoring systems for missile silos all over the world. He's always known my interest in UFOs. All he would say to me is the government knows about them, and he said they're here, and he said you really don't have to worry about it.
And like, you know, what he's pointing out here, others back up the claim to bases on Mars, and a lot of the people that go up in these programs that are brought into these programs basically get out there, and they get out from under the heavy hand of the governments that are here on Earth, and they're out there among the stars, among the visitors, and the visitors don't put up with the bullshit. They don't put up with this crap. And keep watching, because it gets, you'll kind of figure out why here. Just a moment.
But he told me, he said that, I once asked him, his name is John. I said, John, is there 50 levels above top secret? He says, I'm aware of 35 levels above top secret. He said, he had been cleared to some of the highest security clearances, and he told me that he didn't fly, but he saw the SR-71 fly in 1957 as a prototype.
There are as many as 30 levels of security clearances above top secret. Did you hear that?
He said he
as
knows
a prototype. In 1957, he saw the SR-71 fly. So
the SR-71 flew the same year I was born. Interesting, huh?
Yeah, Mach 3 and better.
That's not what we were told, though.
No.
The capability of going to the stars for a long period of time. Another thing Bill Tompkins told me is that when there was the Cuban Missile Crisis, and he said they barricaded Cuba, he said the Navy submarines picked up ruins.
Okay, listen carefully here, because this is going to get fun. U.S. Navy submarines find portholes in ancient tech during the Cuban Missile blockade/crisis on the bottom of the ocean. Check it out. And the Air Force does have airplanes. That looks kind of like this one.
I hope that answered your question. Yes. I believe NASA is presenting a public side of space exploration, but
okay, now what we're gonna go through here for a couple of minutes is the questions are inaudible. They didn't have a very good microphone out there, but if you listen to his answers, you could more or less kind of gauge what the question was. And what he was saying there is obviously a question about NASA and what its role is. My guess at what the question was, because I tried listening to it several times, tried bumping up the audio, listening to it, and it's just really not very easy to hear.
No, it's garbled.
Yeah, so I'm just assuming that the question what's NASA's role, and the answer, it's a public program for public consumption. Can you say waste of dollars? I mean, look at the money they're spending just to throw us off the mark.
Yeah.
Send us down a rabbit hole that's empty.
Yeah. Look at that. All that fuel that gets burned off shooting a cylinder up into space.
Yeah.
For just
when they've got the ability to put a 10-mile long spacecraft into
right.
space without anybody, it doesn't even wake up the neighbors.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, here we go. Oh, the Air Force has cool music too.
Yes. Yes, that is true. It's like a form of chemtrails, but a lot of that is being neutralized. If you go on YouTube.
Okay. Sorry about the increased volume there. I was trying to bump the volume up on that clip there just to see if we could hear the question. About the only thing that you can actually hear is the guy says chemtrails. Okay. And his answer is aircraft spraying being followed by advanced craft using lasers to destroy the harmful elements being sprayed. And you'll hear his response here in the next clip. At a reasonable volume, by the way.
Thank you.
Trails, but a lot of that is being neutralized. If you go on YouTube, you'll see images of chemtrails, and you'll see blow-ups of saucers going into the chemtrails and using lasers to neutralize the chemtrails. So there's activity that's going on to neutralize a lot of the negative aspects.
Okay, now that makes Dead Cat. And that was one of the things. I was watching this thing, and when I got to that part, I immediately called up Dead Cat and says, I got to share this with you. I got to share it with you now. Because just that morning, he had been ranting about, the chemtrails, and if President Trump, would stop them or, doing something to neutralize them or keep them from, doing the damage that we believe that they're doing. And when I came across this and that part in this video, I was like, I got on the red phone immediately to Dead Cat.
Yeah, you got to watch this. You got to listen to this. Yeah. My question has always been, if in fact these chemtrails are harmful, then how is it that President Trump allows them to crisscross our skies all the time? And so this kind of throws a possible answer.
Yes. I would say at least plausible.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Three, two, one.
Planet. Bill told me that when he worked for TRW, they had developed a pill to reverse aging. It's a nutrient. For men, if you're above the age of 35, it reduces your age to between 32 to 34 years of age.
I want to go back to when I was 34.
For women, it's between 23 to 25 years of age. But it's neutralized if you use alcohol, drugs, or tobacco. Okay? He told me that 3 members of Solar Warden that he knew throughout his life would come back to Earth every 20 years. They would visit him in California. He lived in San Diego.
Yeah, age reduction technology in a pill? How incredible is that? That's pretty amazing. You're muted.
Yeah, to be 34 again, I can't think of too many people that wouldn't jump at the chance.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, we know that aging is caused by the shortening of the telomeres on our DNA strands, right? Mm-hmm. And as long as your telomeres are not getting shortened, and your body has the ability to regenerate itself. Well, what causes the telomeres to shorten? Is it something that's in our environment, something that's been introduced into our world by those that would like to control our lifespan? You never know. Maybe we will soon. Here we go.
They would visit him every 20 years. They would come down here like coming to, visit a resort. And he'd always ask them, do you want to come back here and stay? And they said, no, we prefer living amongst the stars. But he had 3 friends who would visit him every 20 years. They never aged. They're parts of Solar Ward.
Yeah, just imagine. Never aging. In the early days of the Bible, how long did they live? 900, 800.
Methuselah supposedly lived 937 or 938 years.
Yeah.
Up until the time he passed, he was working on designs for the Navy, and the Navy regarded him so highly, he never really retired. He continued to work up until the time he passed. It's absolutely astounding. I shared with Bill an experience I had at San Jacinto in California, and he still had the ability of being able to tune in, and he was telling me what I was about to tell him of my experience. And
my question is, did Bill Tompkins really pass, or did he take a pill and he's a young 35-year-old guy hanging out with really beautiful Nordic-looking women?
Yeah, such as in that photo that we saw.
Yeah.
You wouldn't recognize him, would you?
Most likely not.
In the street, you wouldn't recognize him as the Bill Tompkins that we've seen in the photos here.
Right. Very interesting.
Very good question.
It's a thought. Now, and Corey Good and Emery Smith, both, and in talking with David Wilcock and some of the other interviews that they've done, they've actually talked about age regression, the 20 and back program, where they go out for 20 years and they come back and basically they're slipped back into. They're not only age regressed, but they're also come back at a time they basically slipped back into the timeline at the time when they left. So they age regress them and then time regress them so that they come back, and that's that's what they're being that's what they're representing out there.
And that one there is a little bit difficult for me to wrap my my tentacles around.
Well,
don't know.
If you can imagine it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's true. I used to.
They're saying 1,000 years ahead in technology, and we're working with visitors. Just the incredible amount of information that we don't actually know is, it's going to be mind-boggling. I'm ready to be boggled.
Yeah, boggle me, please.
Yeah.
And I said, Bill, you never lost the gift. When he was telling me what I was about to tell him, it's like he was walking along with me during the experience and recording everything that I was saying to him or that I was about to say. I said, Bill, you never lost the gift for being able to tune in. I asked him, he said his mother did not look like any of her sisters. And he said, she looks so different. And I said, Bill, I think your mother was a Nordic. He said.
And that's what they're saying here. Bill's mother was possibly a visitor. So genetically, he was predisposed.
He said, yes, my mother was a Nordic.
So, and now he admitted it to him that his mother was a Nordic. Interesting, huh?
He was one of 500 here. 500 Nordic women brought children forth to be parts of different aspect of elevating awareness and consciousness behind the scenes. He was given a green light to go ahead and reveal his information, and he would say that the Navy threw holy water on him talking about this.
Okay, so Bill Tompkins revealed that his mother was a visitor sent to Earth to help raise the conscious level of select individuals. Why? Here we go. That's his mom arriving now.
Nice little touchdown there.
Yeah.
He said that the Air Force had their own programs, but he said the most advanced technology and the most advanced breakthroughs were occurring within the Navy. And the Navy were keeping it that way purposely, for whatever reason. Yes.
Okay, and there, he basically said it. The Air Force has programs, but not nearly as advanced as the U.S. Navy's. And think about it. Okay, the Philadelphia experiment was a Navy program.
Mm-hmm.
The Navy has been using nuclear power to operate our submarines. All right,
For a very long time.
and the other thing to think about with the Navy, okay, they can go out in the middle of the ocean where nobody can watch, and they can do stuff. Okay.
Yeah, stuff we never hear about.
Just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, they can go out in the middle of basically nowhere, and
Do stuff.
do stuff.
Yeah.
And they've got the ships to do it. So here we go. It's hard to build a golf course in the middle of the ocean anyway.
It is.
Nice putt.
I think it's getting closer to the tipping point. And I've spoken to a couple of physicists who are part of this inner circle, this nucleus, and they said that they're being pushed very hard for releasing this information. And I said, who's behind releasing it? Who do you think they said? The visitors are behind pushing this. They want the information to come out.
Okay.
There you go.
There it is.
Why would the visitors be pushing this to be divulged? You think it's time for us to join the galactic community? Yes, I think it's time to join the galactic community. We've screwed around here long enough with Lucifer and Satan and the creeps.
Mm-hmm.
It's time for us to join the galactic community with and go amongst the stars, live in the heavens, and start really discovering the true nature of God's universe.
Yep. And who on this planet is pushing the hardest for disclosure, for transparency? Who's doing that?
Well, it's the visitors.
It wouldn't be President Trump, would it?
Quite possibly.
Yeah, and the question then becomes, is he, in the loop? Is he part of the loop?
I think I have my reasons to believe that he is. Okay, now we're about 10 minutes away from the top of the hour where we got to turn it over to the other guys. So I'm going to try to let this run as much as possible without any more comments as we go throughout, because there's still quite a bit left of this. It's moving. You can see it.
It's absolutely true. Absolutely true. The Navy personnel that are in Medford, Oregon, they're specifically there to have their children be trained by these space visitors to be part of Solar Warden. It's all going to be made known. It's all going to be... Bill would say, Frank, we've been lied to for so long. It's time for the lies to stop, for all this to come out. That's why he was so excited when he saw that Rockwell integrated space chart that Colonel Ware sent to me. He said, boy, if they're releasing this now, he said, we got to be very close to disclosure.
Preparing children at the Medford, Oregon farm continues to this day. Many feel disclosure is imminent.
A lot of it has. As Joe was talking last night about Bell Labs, that supposedly was one of the seeding points for lasers, fiber optics, transistors, cell phones, all kinds of incredible things. That's a 2 million square foot facility where they had 6,000 engineers and employees there. And I think Joe said that there's, what is there? There's 6 wet labs there, 6 underground wet labs? 7 under wet labs where they could test products underwater.
Bell Labs takes advanced tech and finds ways to introduce it to the public as consumer products. Okay.
I don't know if they are or not. I don't know. All I know is that they're very, very intelligent, and that they're going into solar warden at a very young age. There's like late teens to be of service off planet. Yes.
What's happening to the sound?
The clip just did that.
Yes.
I tried to fix it, couldn't.
Yes. He told me he had the ability to bilocate at the age of 2. He thought everybody had that ability to be able to bilocate, be here in the physical body and be somewhere else.
Bilocation, your physical body one place, your consciousness another. Some people do that anyway, but they have no idea.
I said, Bill, not all of us have that ability. Any other questions before we go on? Yes, sir. Yes, we have monthly meetings at the Cinnaminson Library. Matter of fact, our next meeting is October 30th, this coming Tuesday, and Joe's going to be our featured speaker. He's going to be doing exclusively about Bell Labs.
Watch of more high tech coming our way. Watch 4 more. Okay.
Turn for a treat now.
Like.
Okay. Again, what do you know? This is going to be another aspect of sharing an experience with you folks I think you'll find quite astounding. There's a place in Southern California in Yucca Valley, which is the high desert area above Palm Springs. It's called Christ Desert Park.
Close Encounters. Have you had one?
There was an aircraft designer and engineer who lived there, who lived in Long Beach by the name of Frank Anton Martin. And he would create these plaster of Paris sculptures of figures from the New Testament, of the Master Jesus. And he would take them out. He bought this piece of property in Yucca Valley, and he called it Christ Desert Park. So he would make these figures, and he would take them out to the property and mount them out there, okay?
Have you had a close encounter? We're about to hear about one. Pretty cool, too.
Okay. This is the entrance to Christ Desert Park, and it's against a hill of mountains that separates Yucca Valley from Landers and other parts of the high desert area. It's really, really quite extraordinary. When he passed, he willed this to the state of California, and whenever I would go out there with my brother Simon and others, we would go out to the desert quite often and visit with Gabriel Green. I don't know if that name means anything to you. He was in the service. He was a photographer in the service.
And did your close encounter, if you had one, did they come in a spaceship like this one?
I got a call from Gabriel Green. He said, Frank, you and Simon and Bill Hamilton and about 4 or 5 other people, he said, you got to come out to Yucca Valley. He said, this Sunday something very important is going to be occurring. And I said, what's going to occur? He said, High Desert Savings and Loan is going to be opening on Sunday. There's a woman who had an experience, and the bank is going to let her present the experience, and they told us to get the word out. So there was about 75 of us that went to this event.
Woman claims to have had an extraordinary encounter with friendly human-looking visitors.
And we met this woman. Her name is Barbara Beaver. She lived in the Sunwest Apartments, okay? This is Christ Desert Park. This is a parking lot there. The apartments are here. She was in her bedroom. She was on her bed meditating, and she was facing the window. And her window faces the group of hills above Christ Desert Park. And she was wearing a sweatsuit, and as she was in meditation, she opened her eyes.
Wearing only her sweatsuit, she was invited to a spacecraft that was nearby her
She
home.
opened her eyes and she saw this blue light bouncing up and down the hill ridge, the ridge of hills above Christ Desert Park. And she was watching, and all of a sudden it stopped, and a cone of blue light came out of this blue sphere and encased her in this blue cone of light. And she heard this voice say, "Barbara, come to Christ Desert Park."
Barefooted, off she went. What do you think she discovered?
So she got out of her, she didn't feel like it was pushing on her, it was making a demand on her. She was barefoot, she walked out of her apartment, she walked down the dirt road leading to Christ Desert Park to the entrance, okay? All the time she's looking up at the sky and she sees this blue light above the ridge of hills, okay? Here's Christ Desert Park parking lot, okay? It's a huge parking lot.
Must have been an extraordinary experience for her. I mean, if that were me, that would be an extraordinary experience.
Yeah.
You're going to see something that is really extraordinary. Yeah. I met the son of Barbara Beaver. He provided me with her original drawings and paintings. She was a seamstress, and she created these artist renditions of what her experience was, and her son gave them to me, and he said, "Frank, use them in a presentation about my mom."
Barbara was a pretty good artist, and you'll see some of her renditions here in a moment. And we are running down to the close of our show here.
Yeah, we got maybe 4 minutes.
Yeah, about 4 minutes.
So you're seeing things that have never been shown to the public before. The first time I saw these was more than 35 years ago. This is her rendition of what the craft looked like, okay? She heard a voice say, "Barbara, stand perfectly still," and she heard a whoosh sound, and the craft landed in the parking lot of Christ Desert Park, okay?
Proper attire is required. This is much bigger than even Otis can imagine. Much bigger. Signed Q, post 1870.
She said it was about 100 feet in diameter. She said it was like a bluish purple color, and she said it had like a gold rim around the side of it. And she said it opened up, and she got the impression to come inside of the craft. So she went inside of the craft, and it closed behind her, and she got this impression that before she could be allowed into the center part of the craft, there may be contamination on her clothes, and she was told she'd have to remove her sweatsuit and all this.
Okay, again, proper attire required. Mm-hmm. And this is bigger than any one person or entity. And that's
and all of a sudden she started to panic because she was not wearing anything under her sweatsuit. So when she had that thought, all of a sudden she got this wave of love that enveloped her and told her basically not to worry, that she'd be all right. So she took off her.
Okay, we're getting down to the, we've got about a minute left in the show, and there's still 13 minutes left of the video here. I apologize that we didn't get it all the way through it tonight, but I hope you guys enjoyed the show. And appreciate everyone being here for it. We'll just jump right to the very
emit light at different lengths here.
Now it's off to the stars.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm dying to find out what happened with the peeping Tom aliens.
They do. We don't. Look at the length of light, the beams of light. Absolutely incredible, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just I want to say thank you for joining us tonight. And I'm going to fix a few of the glitches on this, and then we'll upload it onto my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I'll see you guys at 9 o'clock.
Yeah. we'll be there. And thanks for hanging with us. Yeah.
I know you will.
Yeah.
Later, guys.
All right.
All right.
It was very interesting. Very interesting.
This has been one of the more fun shows that we've done. This has really been, this has really been awesome. And Thumper, I tell you what, big round of applause for Thumper. He put most of this together. He put all of this together actually, and you know, broke it up into the little bitty parts. And I'm not going to keep you guys. I'm going to say God bless you all. Thank you all for being here, and we will see you in about 4 hours on straight shooting. And this has been a real venture and adventure. So God bless you all. See you in a few hours.
Hey, thank you, Dead Cat, and thank you, everyone. That was a fun show. A lot of work, an entire weekend editing that silly thing, but it was a lot of fun, and we may do more of those. It just hopefully I can get a little bit better, more proficient with the editing system, so it can run faster. So again, thank you, everyone. Been a pleasure being here with you. I'm going to go get some sleep. And we'll see you for straight shooting here in a couple of hours from now. Percival, Learn Share, and live chat. Y'all have a great evening, and we'll see you after a bit. God bless.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you. This is Percival.
This is Learn Share.
And you are now listening to the Rise and Shiners.
We bring